Hello, my friends, and welcome to Perfect Practice. Today with me, I have somebody who I know you're going to learn to admire, learn to love because of her amazing passion for helping people. Before we got on this call, before we started the recording, rather, we're having a conversation that I'm going to bring into this dialogue that we have in just a moment. But one of the things, the revelations that she had several years ago was that she wants to really, really focus on helping people through her practice, through her vision. And once she put her mind to it, the universe has conspired. So we're going to unpack a little bit more about her story and share with you an inspiring human being who is doing great things in the world, not just locally in Ottawa, Canada, but really making an impact on her clients' lives and their families' lives all over the world. So with me today, I have Ramila Padiachy, and she is located in Ottawa, as I mentioned. She's a doctor of natural medicine. She's a functional medicine practitioner. She's an emotional release practitioner, a gut expert, and an author. She has done so many things to get her message out into the world, including all the training that she has, but she also speaks internationally. She's been on CTV, Ottawa Live several times. She's originally from South Africa, and she and her husband and 3 children immigrated to Canada, where they established Ramila's Healing Arts Clinic in 1992. So she's been in this game for quite some time. And what I'd love to do is unpack her story so that you budding entrepreneurs who are in the health space can learn from somebody who is a living legend, somebody who's been at this for many, many decades and is still continuing to grow, to put her message out there in the world and serve with passion. Welcome, Ramila. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Sachin. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's great to have you, and it's great to connect in this capacity with you and to be able to learn a little bit more about your story. I always learn something new when I do these interviews, and I'm also excited to share your passion and your journey with others, because I know that it hasn't always been a smooth road, right? Just like for many of us, including myself, the art of being able to help people starts ultimately by first learning how to be of service to ourselves. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about your story. So tell me a little bit more about what got you into the natural medicine world. What inspired you to take on this work?
So when we migrated to Canada, I had to look at changing my career. As you know, most immigrants, your degrees are not accepted here, so you have to change careers. And, I call it the honeymoon phase. So we arrived in October in Canada, and then in January, the reality set, what are we going to do? And we couldn't find jobs because, we were overqualified, didn't have Canadian qualifications, all of that. And I sat quietly and I just prayed and I said, what are we going to do? We have 3 kids. What are we going to do? And at that moment, there was this little voice that spoke to me and said that I needed to help people and I needed to work with people. And so it was like, what am I going to do? And my husband says, why don't you see if they offer reflexology in Canada? And so the next morning I called around and, there was a college in Ottawa starting that night and they had a few seats and I attended more for interest. And, to see if my husband was doing the right technique. So I had a lot of health challenges, but one of it was back problems. So that was my interest. But when I attended the college, I was amazed at the amount of courses they had in complementary medicine. I was addicted. I took every course possible. And then one day, the teacher started talking about these symptoms. He's talking about vaginal infections, bladder infections, a foggy brain, bloating, fatigue, and a condition that I'm not sure if you know, and maybe a lot of your listeners may not even be aware of, called dermographism or skin writing. And I had all of those. And I thought, is this guy psychic? Does he know me? And he's talking about me. And he said, all of these symptoms are the result of a condition called candida. I mean, it was amazing. I went around for 15 years to doctors in South Africa, from one to the other, wanting to know what's happening. Why am I having these? And they say, oh, women tend to get that. Women tend to get that. And I was on antibiotics almost every 6 weeks. And so knowing now what I know, how Candida was exacerbated by taking all those antibiotics. And I went on a cleanse and I changed my diet. And, at that time, no doctors had even asked me about my diet. I mean, I was eating 2 chocolate bars. I was drinking soda, you name it. And I was vegetarian. And you think vegetarian means healthy? Absolutely not. We know that, right? And so I did that. And in 6 weeks, I was symptom free. I mean, after 15 years, 6 weeks, I was symptom free. And that just motivated me to continue studying. And then I got my doctorate in naturopathic as well as acupuncture. And I knew that this was my purpose. I was brought to Canada to do this. This was my dharma. And that's why I was brought away from friends and family to come to this place and do this. And, when I started 30 years ago, honestly, people didn't even know about this. And it was tough because people would say, what's that? And of course, we had other challenges, right? 30 years ago, you're brown, you're from another country, they're not going to trust you. So we had all those challenges. And, in year 2, all the finances we brought, Sachin, was down to 0 because I went back to school, my husband went back to school, and then he got a job, and the job paid just enough for our rent and, whatever utilities we had to pay, and we're left with $400 for the month. Now imagine $100 a week feeding 5 of us, kids, supplies, all of this. But my husband said, we want you around. Look how far you've come. You're going to take some money from the groceries and make sure you get your supplements, and still continued. Like he just did everything in his power to help me. And here I am 30 years later, and I feel the best I've ever felt.
Wow. I'm old enough to know not to ask you how old you are, but you look very young. So it's hard to imagine that you've been.
I'm so proud to say I'm going to be 63 this December.
Wow. Yeah, you definitely don't look it. So you've done a lot of things right.
Thank you. And that's what I say, it's from the inside. Most people are looking for things to do on the outside, but it has to come from the inside. And, that passion with just wanting to empower people, and people that were struggling because all the blood work is normal, all the test results are normal, and they have no idea what's wrong with them. And to come to see me and within 2 weeks, see results, that is really what I thrive for. And within 2 weeks, there's a change in so many of their symptoms. And that's what motivates me and gets me up every morning to do what I do.
I would imagine that when people walk into your practice, that they would not even believe what your age is. And it just, that in and of itself is like a selling feature, right? Because they're probably like, man, I want to have your level of energy. I want to have that smile on my face, and I want to look and feel as good as possible for as long as possible. Tell me a little bit more about, maybe tell me one of your favorite case studies, maybe a recent case study of somebody who's been kind of bouncing around from one practitioner to the next. Maybe they're in the same position that you were in many, many moons ago. I'd love to hear a common, maybe a case study or something common that you see over and over in your practice.
Right. So I have, Monica, she came to see me, and she literally couldn't eat. Like she said, anything she put into her mouth, she would feel bloated, she'll feel nauseated. She had to know where the bathroom is. So anywhere she went, the first thing she would ask is, where's the bathroom? Even if she was downtown, she needed to know that. And she went from doctor to doctor, and she even went to the gastric specialist, and they did test and they couldn't find anything that was wrong with her. And, I use a kinesiology as a tool for testing. And, I test the organs, I test for organisms. And even when I'm testing for the product, I use kinesiology. So it's very targeted with what I do.
Can you tell us a little bit more, just if somebody's not familiar with kinesiology who's listening to this, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Right. So kinesiology, in layman's term, it's called muscle response testing. And it's using the body's innate intelligence to find imbalances in the body. So I use the arm to test, and there's different reflex points all over the body, and I would test that. And if there's an imbalance, the arm that was strong that I'm using to test would suddenly weaken. And I'd know that that's where, the imbalance is. And then by using different herbs or vitamins, I would test against it again, and the arm will strengthen. So it's something that people feel. It's not me just saying, oh, yes, you have this condition and take this and you'll get better. And they see that, for a specific condition, I may have 3 and 4 things that's going to correct it, but there's only 1 or 2 that's very specific to them. And I think that that is the key to my success, that people get the results within 2 weeks. And I really honestly pride myself that they do get results in 2 weeks. So Monica came and, so I tested her. She was amazed at all of this. And then I said to her, oh yeah, in 2 weeks, you're going to be, you're going to feel good. And she's written a testimonial. I actually have it in my book as well. And she said, oh, yeah, that's when I went, oh, really? And she says, but I had nothing to lose because a friend of hers who had come to see me had great results and recommended her. And she says, okay, it's only money at the end of the day. And she walked away with the supplements. I gave her the roadmap. To me, that's something else. I don't only tell people what not to eat, but I give them a roadmap of what to have for breakfast, snacks, if they're doing snacks, lunch, dinner. So they walk out feeling educated, feeling empowered, and with a roadmap, and they're leaving the office. So they're so excited. And of course, you can feel my energy because I'm so excited when I know I can help someone. And she came back 2 weeks later and she said, oh my God, my life has changed forever. And like, she's not the only one. I have little babies where, they are diagnosed with the inability to thrive. And honestly, so many of them have an overgrowth of yeast in their bodies because mom had it while she was pregnant. And she had no idea. And within 3-4 weeks, these kids are thriving. They're in the right percentile. I mean, I can't put a price to how I feel about it. And I'm sure you can feel my passion, like after 30 years.
It never gets old. Yeah, it never gets old when you help people, right? I'm getting goosebumps just hearing you tell the story because I can feel how much it energizes and charges you. And it charges me up to hear what's possible, right? When we remove the interference and we give people, really more of what they need and, help them eliminate the things that aren't serving them, but not just by telling them what not to do, but actually telling them what to do and creating a structured roadmap for them so that they're not feeling deprived, so that they're seeing transformation take place in a very short period of time. And that's a testament to your experience and of course, the buy-in that you get from your clients, right? Like that part of it is very important. How do you help them overcome skepticism? If that's something that comes up for them, because that's something that, a lot of practitioners might be struggling with is they make not a promise, but maybe they make set kind of an objective of this is how soon it's going to be until you start feeling better. And people who've kind of been around the block and been everywhere may have even heard that before from other practitioners. How do you address that skepticism that might come up?
I'm so fortunate that I have very little of that because my business is mostly by referrals. And even all my patients that I have a lot of patients from the US as well. So I can do surrogate testing, long distance. And so because they come in, it's already they trusting the people that have sent them. But there is an element of skepticism when I do the kinesiology testing. There's always that, right? Because there's some people that say, oh, you're pushing harder. And usually I would tell them, I don't have to. It's your body. Listen to your body. It's your body's innate intelligence. You have just forgotten how to tap into that intelligence. So I think I've been around the block for long enough that I can read people and I know where they're going to go to. So I can get around that, initially, of course, you try to sell it to them. And I was there. I was honestly there. At this point, I said to them, they said, try it again. And I would say, I don't even have to do that. I don't have to prove that to you. I'm doing this too long. But in the beginning, it is. And then, I would use stories. I'll ask them, your friend sent you to me. Do you trust that person? It's like, absolutely. They're not going to send you here if you didn't trust them. So that was one of the ways of getting around. And the other thing is also, I do a lot of emotional release work as well. And that I think I was blessed with as well, because it's something that I never learned. It was downloaded to me. And I don't think you know that I do that.
Tell me more.
It's sometimes I think, Sachin, it's even more profound than the other work, the physical work that I do. So, I had a lot of patients that had conditions, and I knew there was a physical, emotional component to it. And I would send them to the different practitioners, and it never happened that they'd come back and say, oh my goodness, I feel so well. So one day I just sat in my office and I just looked up, and, prayer is my thing. And I said, you want me to do this? Show me how. So I knew how to ask the questions regarding the emotions. And that emotions have a different frequency. I'm sure you know that, right? And so I knew how to ask the question using kinesiology. And honestly, about 6 weeks later, I just got this thing. This is what you need to do to remove it from cell memory. And I do timeline. So I start right in utero, because as we know, if mom has the emotion while, she's pregnant, then the baby's already going to have it. And so I came home, and my middle daughter, Chanel, who's a naturopathic doctor, was always my guinea pig. And I said, Chanel, I need to test you. And I did this, and something came up, and she was in grade 7. And I said, what happened? And she says, Mom, this ball came from my belly up into my throat, and I felt it come out. And I went, oh my God. And she said, you remember that incident? And I remember that incident. She had shared that with me. And the next day I called everybody that I knew that was struggling emotionally. And I said, it's on me. And they came, and I did that. So I work on the autonomic nervous system, and I release it from cell memory. And because I've been doing it so long, I actually feel where it is stuck in their body. I feel it in mine. And as I release it, I can feel the release as well. And that is so profound, because sometimes you go for therapy and they give you amazing tools and you're working with what you need to. But if the anchor is there and you don't release that anchor, you can never get rid of it.
Right.
And in one session, I can get rid of an anchor for that emotion. You want to hear a quick testimonial of a little girl. I mean, I think that's so profound. Layla was 6 years old, and her mom was seeing me, and mom had a lot of anger towards her husband during pregnancy, because, women, we never know what happens, right? With the hormones, how it's going to affect us. And she'd tell me that Layla just does not like my husband. And I knew her husband, he was a patient as well. What a gentle soul. And I was like, oh my God. And I'd see her fighting with her brother when they're in the office. So I said to the mom did her emotional release. I said, why don't we do Layla's? Because she understands what anger is. And I did it directly on her. And I did. And I said, Layla, remember, do you love daddy? And she says, no. And I guided her through the process. And I said, what are you doing? I'm hitting my daddy. I'm kicking my daddy. And I just continue asking her questions. And then suddenly she says, I love my daddy. I'm hugging my daddy. And it was such an amazing feeling. That night, Sachin, she went home. Mom said she picked the dad's clothes up. She smelled it and said, Daddy, your clothes smell so good. And I've seen mom over the years, and she says, like, you cannot take Layla away from her dad now.
Wow.
Imagine her growing up, being angry at dad and not even knowing why.
Yeah, that's it's quite profound. And I think a lot of us have emotions bottled up inside of us that, lead to issues in our tissues or show up in other ways in our lives and, in our relationships in this
Yes.
case, but also as disease and dysfunction.
Right. Disease, big time, right? We know all the diseases, that's a manifestation. And that's why, I wanted to do something emotionally. And I'm blessed that it was given to me.
Yeah. And you've also written a book. So I'd love to talk about how that came to be.
That's called The Belly of the Beast, How to Calm Your Gut and Reclaim Your Health. So how that came about for years, people would say to me when they come back, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And of course, we all have these skeletons, that I'm not good enough. I mean, I grew up in South Africa through the apartheid regime. So you can imagine I was not good enough. I was brown. I was not good enough. And then from East Indian parents who were second generation born there, and we know how strict they are. So I had a lot of not good enough that I had to work through. And then finally, I decided, you know what, I'm being selfish if I don't share this information. And I have my own journey. And so that's what I did. And I shared my journey and all the aspects of healing. And, I always said I'm not a writer, but when I started writing it, my aim was that a high school student can read the book and understand it. So I use no medical jargon. It's written very, very, very simply. And one time I had this family from the US and this child, she was 13, and they were at the office and she had the yeast. And the mom said, okay, if you read this book and I question you in 2 days, I will give you $100. And the mom quizzed her and she read it and she understood everything. So I knew that my mission was accomplished.
Wow, I love that. Having a book is such a powerful tool. I'd love to know, how do you distribute it? Do you offer it to your clients in your practice? Where can people get a copy of one?
Yeah, I do offer it in my practice. And I also I didn't sell it on Amazon. I do sell it through my website, which is so easy. Ramillas.com is the website. And I just sell it through the website. And there is a digital version as well. So I even have someone I remember not too long ago, she ordered it from Australia, and she's written such an amazing testimonial of how well she's doing just after reading my book.
Awesome. So I know that, you get amazing results as you're highlighting. And of course, the referrals speak for themselves and the testimonies speak for themselves. What I'd love to do is unpack maybe some of the challenges and obstacles that you had to overcome, aside from, coming here and kind of perhaps learning a whole new way of life, learning a whole new methodology to be helping people. But what are some of the other challenges that you had to overcome in growing your business and growing your practice?
The other was, having 3 children and, and them going to school, and they had their own challenges. And, my husband then also joined me in the practice. So here we are. That's the only income we have. And, I have to say, I feel so blessed, Sachin, when you ask me that question, because challenges, I didn't have that many. I don't know. The universe conspired to get me where I am. I really believe this is my dharma. But there's one thing that happened. Hey, I had all 3 of my children at university at the same time. And, financially, that was hard. And that, we came and we knew that we're paying for our children's university, right? That's just what we do. And so I think what happened was I started focusing on the money. And I was getting stressed. And my son he's the youngest, he was 18. And I said, Kavish, I'm so worried. Business is not going well. And, we have to pay all these bills and you guys are here. And he says, Mom, because he knew my kids know how passionate I am. And he said, Mom, what are you focusing on? I said, all the bills. He said, what about your passion, helping people? And I went, oh my God, you're so right. And honestly, the next day, I pray in the morning at home. but I pray in the office as well. And that's when I surrendered again. And I said, work through me, speak through me, heal through me. That's it. And the next week, I was totally booked again. So it just
Wow.
shows I cannot lie. I do things with passion, and honestly, the money will follow. So to anyone that's listening and thinking, okay, I'm struggling, how is it going to happen? Put your passion into it and the money will follow.
Yeah, I think that's an important lesson because sometimes, we get either coached into focusing too much on the numbers
Yes,
and less on how we feel about our business. And, no matter how much, no matter what the numbers say, it's never going to be enough, right? There's always more people to help. There's always more growth that we can encounter. But when we focus on that, then it takes away our joy. It
yes,
takes away our sense of purpose. Because as many people probably know, if all you want to do is make money, there's easier ways to do that. But if you want to
exactly.
help people, then this is the right way to do it.
Right. And that's all I want to do is educate and empower people because they're not educated. Even to this day and age, they come into the office and I tell them about simple things and they don't know. And their doctors never ask them. Other practitioners have not asked them. And I really believe that when, you're educated, you're empowered. And that's the most important thing, because you're going to take that with you for the rest of your life. And young families, I love that because their kids are learning that through them, right? So, it's wonderful to help and teach young families.
Yeah, I think the sooner we can start, the better, right?
Exactly.
And so, do you work with the entire family? Is that how you typically work with people? Because you mentioned that the child and the mom. So, if the mom has a yeast infection, passes it on to the child, there's probably some work that needs to be done with the whole family, I would imagine.
Yes, and usually it happens that, either the mom comes for herself and realizes after me educating her that, oh my God, my child has all these symptoms, or otherwise they bring the child in because someone's recommended the child, and then they go, no, I have the similar thing, so I need to come, and then it becomes a family thing. So yes, it usually trickles into the entire family.
Hmm. Now,
Yeah.
I know you've landed yourself on television a few times. So, for somebody who's inspired to get on television and make a splash in their local community, I'd love to know how that came to be. And maybe if there's some words of wisdom that you could offer to somebody who's just as passionate and trusting as you are, that can help spread their message.
So I was fortunate that the producer, had known me and, came, yeah, so had known me. We'll keep it to that, right? And then asked if I would come on television. And, honestly, it was 2 years that she kept asking me. And because of my own uncertainties, my own my lacking confidence, I said, no, no, no. And one day I was at a conference and there was this woman that, was talking about personal development and looking at your inner self, whatever it was. And I stood up and the moment I stood up and she said, why are you holding back?
Hmm.
Why are you being selfish and not sharing your message? I was like, oh my God. And the next day, this was on Saturday. So Monday, I sent an email and said, I'm ready to be on.
Hmm. So, you're definitely a woman of action.
Well, I had to. I mean, someone's telling me that to my face, and yeah, I am saying that, I wasn't congruent, right? Because I say I want to empower people, I want to educate them. And yet, when I had the opportunity of being on television, I said no because of my, I don't know, whatever that story was in my head. And so, when someone's telling you directly in a room full of people that you're holding back and you're selfish, it's like, oh, I better get my act together.
Hmm.
And so I just took the plunge and I did it. And it went really well. So I was invited again and, I didn't hesitate. And yeah.
Amazing. So you said your daughter, Chanel, is a naturopathic doctor.
Yeah, that's right. And she works
and,
with us in the clinic.
and you work in the clinic. So tell me about that dynamic. How does that work?
It's really, it's really good. We have a very, we really respect each other, because I really respect her for her knowledge. And of course, she grew up, knowing all of this. She was 7 when we immigrated. And so there's times when she'd come into the office and said, Mom, what would you do with this person? Mom, what would you do with that? So she does labs, but she also learned the kinesiology through me, so I teach it as well. And so she would come and get advice from me. So we work really well as a team, and we do refer as well. If she's got someone, with emotional stuff, she doesn't do that. So she would refer them to me. And if someone's looking for, she's registered in Ontario, so she has insurance coverage. And if that's important, then I just send them to her. We also do a lot of sensitivity work. We test for foods and environmental sensitivities, and we reverse that as well. So something she doesn't do. So there's a lot of referrals we can do to each other as well. So it's really a cool dynamic.
Yeah, it sounds like you provide a lot of complementary services, and you've got a kind of an internal referral system, and it's a one-stop shop for people.
Yes,
I know. Oh,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
My oldest daughter does quantum healing. And so then if there's deeper healing, then they go and see.
Wow, whole family of healers. What about your son? What's he into?
My son is a chemical engineer, and he did his MBA. So he's in Dubai. He works in Dubai as a management consultant. His wife actually is a chiropractor. She studied in Toronto. But when his company opened in Dubai and asked if he'd like to go, he did. And so they lived there, and she grew up there. Both her parents are physicians, and they were there. And chiropractic is not so big in Dubai. So during the pandemic, she realized that, people are using hand sanitizers and it's drying their skin. So she's developed a hand sanitizer with a moisturizer, and it's FDA approved in the US. And it's in some stores in Dubai. So she did the development, and he's doing, besides his day job, he's doing the marketing side. So they're very busy as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Quite the entrepreneurial family that is adding positive vibes into humanity. I love it. So you and your husband have done such a great job creating a roadmap for them of success and what it looks like to be successful in life. And it's great to see them following in your footsteps of helping people feel their absolute best. I love that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, proud of all of them. They're doing very well.
So
they took the advantage, right? We came here for them, and they took advantage of that. And I feel blessed that they did do that.
That's awesome. So what's on the horizon for you? What are you most excited about over the next 3 to 5 years?
So what I'm excited about, and that's why I joined Practice Perfect. I always have to think about the better or the perfect.
Perfect practice.
Yes. So I joined the organization because what I want to do is I can only see one person at a time. Mm-hmm. And my mission is to help many, many, many people. And I would like it to be international. It is international, but even more so on a broader spectrum. So with doing the group coaching, I can do that. And, I'm into my 2nd round, and it's going so amazing. And I'm so excited about that. And, because of, my age, I don't feel that, I don't all of this, but I do want to, I work 4 days a week, and maybe work a day less and do more of the coaching. And still continue. I love the personal contact with people, so still do some of that, but do more of the group coaching, which I'm really enjoying. So I think in the next 3 to 5 years, that is really my plan, and I'll be able to coach wherever I am. So take longer holidays, because presently 2 weeks is maximum that I can do. So take longer holidays and spend more time with my grandchild. I have a grandbaby too.
Wow. How old?
20 months.
20 months. Okay. Very, very formative years and important years to try to capture as many moments as you possibly can. I love that.
Yes, and she's such a big part of our clinic. We're so lucky. We babysit her on Mondays, and her mom works Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And Tuesday and Thursday, she's the office baby. We have her playroom downstairs, and she's just, everybody just loves her. So we
Oh,
all take care of her.
that's awesome. I mean, having that kind of love and family around you is so vitally important, and it's not common these days, right?
No.
It's easy to kind of ship them off somewhere else, but to have your family there and raising her, that's quite remarkable. I think that's the thing that excites me the most of having a practice that allows us to create freedom, right? We can write our own rules. We can do things the way we want, and we can prioritize what's important to us. And as you mentioned, even before we got on this recording, is how important your family is for you and how you
Yes.
want to spend, more time with your family, and that, developing a practice model that allows you to do that is very important to you. And of course, the group practice model allows you to do that. In transitioning from one-on-one and incorporating more of a group, what are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way that perhaps could be helpful for a practitioner who's listening right now?
You have to go back and overcome the not having the confidence. It's interesting when you're doing things one-on-one for 30 years. I'm so comfortable, right? When people just walk into my office, they feel my energy, I'm there with them. And then doing the group coaching, I had to go deep down again and look at myself and go, can I do this? And yes, I had to work through that. And thanks for the coaching sessions we have with all of you. And that's helped. That has really helped, because now it's, when you're in front of a group, there's different questions, and I know what I know, and you still doubt yourself. And when you're in the group setting and there's a question that's imposed, and it's just amazing how you are able to answer it because you know it, you know the stuff, and that to me I think that was what was holding me back. Would I be able to do it? What if they ask me a question that I don't even know? And it's okay for me to say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. But that has not happened. But again, it was the confidence. So that really comes back. And it's something that I think, even after doing this for 30 years, I need to pay attention to that. Because it's from every facet of our upbringing. Still looks its head and say, you think you're good enough? Think you're smart? Our parents said that. And the other thing is, our parents always told us not to have ego, right?
Right.
And I'm realizing, if there's anything, when you love what you do and you do it from the heart, it is not ego. It was a lesson for me to have learned. It is not ego. It is my passion.
That's wonderful. So how can people get in contact with you if they're interested in working with you? It sounds like you work with people locally, and you also work with people remotely. You do one-on-one work, and also you do group work. So I'd love to know who's the ideal fit for you, so that if they're interested in working with you, we can also make sure that they're connected as well.
So it's most of my patients, I would say, are women between 30 and 65, although I've seen people, in their 90s, and little babies, 2 weeks old. So it's kind of hard to say, oh, that's my avatar, but mostly it's those, especially for my group program. So people that have inflammation, they struggling with a foggy brain, they having hormonal issues, and then, weight gain. And women are having a difficult time losing weight no matter what they do. They're cleaning up their diet, they exercising, they doing all of this, but they're not realizing that there's so many more pieces to the puzzle than just eating well and exercising. And, so I teach them all of these. I put the puzzle together to give them that whole. And so these are the people that I'm working with. And a lot of them had joined my program because they wanted to lose weight. But within 4 days, many of them have written in saying, oh, my inflammation is gone. It's easier to walk down the stairs. I'm not holding onto the wall anymore. I can sit down and stand up easily. My hands are not puffy. So those are the people that I'm working with in the group, and the others with the one-on-one are people that are doing everything and still not feeling well. And they want to know what the root cause of the problem is. And these are the people where I would do the testing and find the root cause of the problem and treat it. And many of my people in my group program have also transitioned from my one-on-one to the group.
Wonderful. So where can we send people to learn more?
So they can go to my website. And as I said, it's so easy. It's just Ramila's without an apostrophe S, ramilas.com. Or they can find me on Facebook, Ramila Padiachy, DNM, and I'm right there.
Amazing. Thank you, Ramila. This has been very enlightening. I love your passion. I love your smile. I love your enthusiasm. I love that you come from a place of service and really wanting to be truly helpful for people. And I wish you nothing but continued growth and success and impact, which I know is what warms up your heart. And it's so cool that you've got, multiple generations of people in your practice, and hopefully your granddaughter, takes your lead and also enters into the space of healing. Because as we all know, the world needs us now more than ever. And the younger we can start them and inspire them to do this wonderful work, the better. So keep up the awesome work. And thank you for sharing some of the lessons that you learned along the way and sharing your story with me as well.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And I appreciate all that you do for all of us as mentees, but for the world. And I love all your messages. And yes, I know you're living your purpose, your dharma, and you are one of a kind. Thank you.
Thank you. Have an amazing rest of your day.
You too.
Bye for now.
Okay, bye.